Cold doesn't kill people because it's extreme. It kills because most people don't understand how it actually works. In a collapse, heat disappears, time shrinks, and small mistakes turn deadly fast. These are 7 cold physics facts that explain why most preppers will freeze, not from lack of supplies, but from ignoring the rules cold always follows. Number 1. Your body loses heat faster than you think. When everything collapses, cold becomes one of the fastest and most reliable killers. Not because it is violent or dramatic, but because it works constantly and quietly. Your body is always losing heat. Every second, heat escapes through your skin into the air, into the ground, and into any cold object you touch. This is basic physics. Heat always moves from warmer objects to colder ones, and your body is almost always the warmest thing around you in a winter collapse. Under normal conditions, this heat loss is balanced by internal heat production. You eat, you move, you stay indoors with heating. When the grid goes down, that balance disappears. Many preppers believe cold only becomes dangerous in extreme temperatures, but that is not how it works. Hypothermia can begin at temperatures well above freezing, especially with long exposure. Sitting in a cold room, sleeping on a cold floor, or remaining inactive for hours can slowly drain your core temperature. You may not feel panic at first. Instead, you feel tired, unmotivated, unfocused. That is already the cold working. Your body spends more energy just to maintain temperature, leaving less energy for thinking, movement, and decision-making. Being indoors does not mean you are safe. Unheated buildings act like thermal sponges. Walls, concrete, floors, and windows absorb heat from your body continuously. Over time, your internal temperature slowly drops. Clothing helps, but clothing only slows heat loss. It does not stop it. Without an active heat source, insulation just delays the problem. In collapse conditions, fuel is limited, heaters stop working, and fire becomes risky or impossible. This is when cold becomes lethal. Another mistake is thinking shivering means you are still fine. Shivering is your body's emergency heat production system. It burns energy rapidly. Once energy stores drop or muscles fatigue, shivering weakens and eventually stops. That does not mean you are warming up. It means your body is failing to compensate. By the time this happens, survival time becomes very short. Cold kills by draining heat faster than you can replace it. If that imbalance continues, freezing is inevitable, no matter how tough or prepared someone believes they are. Number 2. Wind makes cold much more dangerous. Wind is one of the most underestimated threats in cold survival. It does not change the temperature, but it dramatically increases heat loss. Under calm conditions, your body warms a thin layer of air around your skin. That layer acts as insulation and slows heat transfer. Wind destroys that protection. It constantly strips away warm air and replaces it with cold air. This increases convective heat loss, meaning your body cools much faster than you expect. This is why wind chill exists. Wind chill is not about how cold the air feels emotionally. It measures how quickly your body loses heat. In collapse scenarios, wind exposure is everywhere. Broken windows, damaged doors, missing insulation, cracked walls, open roofs, and poorly sealed vehicles all allow airflow. Even small drafts that seem harmless can remove significant amounts of heat over time. Overnight exposure to light airflow can drop core temperature to dangerous levels without waking you up. Many people respond to wind by adding more clothing. This only works if the wind is blocked. Wind penetrates loose clothing and compresses insulation, reducing its effectiveness. Blocking airflow is often more important than adding layers. Plastic sheets, tarps, cardboard, foam, furniture, and even stacked supplies can reduce airflow and save heat. From a physics standpoint, stopping wind lowers heat loss more efficiently than almost anything else you can do. Cars are especially dangerous in wind. Metal conducts heat well, and vehicles cool rapidly. Without an active heat source, a car becomes as cold as the air outside, sometimes colder due to wind exposure. People often underestimate this risk during winter breakdowns and grid failures. Wind plus cold creates accelerated heat loss, turning mild cold into a lethal environment. Understanding wind physics is critical for any prepper planning to survive winter collapse. Number 3. Wet clothes make freezing much faster. Moisture changes everything in cold environments. Dry air is a poor conductor of heat, which is why insulation works. Water, however, conducts heat very efficiently. When clothing becomes wet, it replaces trapped air with water, creating a direct path for heat to escape from your body. This causes heat loss to increase dramatically. This is why wet cold feels far worse than dry cold. In survival situations, clothes often get wet from sweat, not rain or snow. Many beginner preppers overdress before physical work. Chopping wood, hauling water, walking long distances, or setting up shelter generates heat. When you sweat, moisture builds inside your clothing. Once you stop moving, that moisture begins pulling heat from your body immediately. This is one of the most common cold weather mistakes. In collapse conditions, drying clothes is difficult. No electricity means no dryers. Limited fuel means fires must be conserved. Open fires may be unsafe or visible. Once clothes are wet, they may stay wet for days. Cotton is especially dangerous because it holds moisture and dries slowly. Synthetic and wool materials perform better, but no fabric works when soaked. Cold survival is not about staying warm at all times. It is about staying dry. It is better to feel slightly cool while working than soaked afterward. Layer control is critical. Removing layers before sweating and adding them back immediately after activity is a survival habit, not a comfort choice. Ignoring moisture management turns cold from a challenge into a serious threat. Wet clothing collapses insulation, accelerates heat loss, and drastically reduces survival time. Number 4. Food alone will not keep you warm. Food provides energy, but energy does not automatically become heat. This is a major misunderstanding in prepping. Your body converts calories into heat through metabolism, but cold interferes with that process. When your core temperature drops, digestion slows down. Blood flow shifts to protect vital organs. Your body focuses on survival, not efficiency. This means you can have food available and still feel cold, weak, and unable to warm up. Cold food makes the situation worse. Your body must spend energy warming cold food internally before it can use it. In extreme cold, this can increase net heat loss. Warm meals provide both calories and immediate thermal benefit. This is why hot soups, broths, and warm drinks are so effective in cold survival. They reduce the metabolic cost of digestion and provide direct heat. In collapse conditions, cooking becomes difficult. Fuel freezes, pressure stoves fail, ignition becomes harder, and water sources ice over. High-calorie foods like fats are useful, but frozen fats are difficult to digest and use. This creates a gap between stored calories and usable energy. Preppers who store food but ignore heat and cooking ability often fail in cold environments. Eating more does not solve cold if heat loss remains high. Heat production must exceed heat loss. Food is only one part of that equation. Without shelter, wind protection, dry clothing, and the ability to prepare warm meals, calories lose much of their value. Cold physics punishes poor energy management relentlessly. Number 5. Cold stops your hands from working. One of the most dangerous effects of cold is how quickly it disables your hands. The human body protects the core first. Blood flow to fingers is reduced early, long before core temperature becomes critical. Hands become stiff, slow, and clumsy. Fine motor skills disappear first. Strength may remain, but control is gone. This creates a deadly situation in survival scenarios. Tasks like starting a fire, opening containers, tying knots, repairing equipment, loading tools, or handling weapons become extremely difficult. Many people remove gloves to work faster, exposing bare skin to cold air and metal surfaces. Metal conducts heat very efficiently and pulls warmth from skin almost instantly. Within minutes, pain, numbness, and loss of control set in. Once dexterity is gone, survival tasks stop. You may know what to do, but your hands cannot execute it. Fire starting fails. Shelter adjustments become impossible. Small mistakes compound quickly. Cold takes control before it takes strength. This is why protecting hands is critical. Gloves must stay dry. Exposure must be minimized. Tasks should be planned to reduce hand contact with cold materials. Cold does not kill by dramatic collapse. It kills by removing capability step by step. First precision, then coordination, then judgment. When hands stop working, survival options shrink rapidly. This is one of the main reasons unprepared people freeze despite having supplies nearby. Number 6. Big shelters are harder to stay warm in. Many people automatically assume that a large house, warehouse, school, or commercial building offers better protection in a collapse. Psychologically, big structures feel safer. Physically, in cold conditions, they often become a liability. Cold physics does not care about comfort or appearance. It cares about volume, airflow, and heat loss. The larger the space, the more heat energy is required to raise and maintain its temperature. In a grid-down scenario, that energy usually does not exist. Large rooms with high ceilings are especially dangerous. Warm air rises, leaving the lower living area colder. Without forced air circulation or constant heating, heat collects where it does the least good. Open layouts allow heat to spread thin instead of concentrating around your body. Every extra cubic meter of air must be warmed, and every cold wall, window, and floor acts like a heatsink pulling warmth away. Concrete, brick, and stone absorb heat rapidly and release it slowly, meaning they continuously drain body heat in unheated buildings. In a collapse, fuel becomes scarce. You cannot afford to heat unused rooms or large volumes of air. This is why experienced cold survivors always reduce living space. They create micro-shelters inside shelters. Small rooms, closets, hallways, tents inside buildings, or even makeshift enclosures using furniture and blankets drastically reduce the amount of air that needs to be warmed. From a physics standpoint, reducing volume is one of the most effective ways to conserve heat. Wind control matters just as much as size. Large buildings usually have more cracks, broken windows, damaged doors, and ventilation gaps. These allow constant airflow, which strips heat away through convection. Even a small draft can turn a large shelter into a freezer over time. Blocking airflow with plastic sheets, tarps, cardboard, fabric, or debris is often more important than the strength of the structure itself. Weak materials can work extremely well if they stop wind and trap air. Sleeping position is another critical factor many preppers overlook. Cold ground pulls heat away through conduction. Concrete floors, tile, dirt, and frozen earth drain body heat all night long. Sleeping directly on the ground can be deadly, even with blankets. Elevation matters. Even a few inches of insulation between your body and the ground can significantly reduce heat loss. Cardboard, foam, backpacks, dry clothing, leaves, wood pallets, or folded fabric all help. The goal is to break direct contact with cold surfaces. Small, enclosed sleeping areas are far easier to keep warm than large rooms. Body heat builds up faster, and insulation works more effectively. This is why people can survive in tents, snow shelters, or improvised enclosures when they fail in houses. Cold survival is not about owning the biggest shelter. It is about controlling space, airflow, and heat transfer. Preppers who understand this survive with less effort and fewer resources than those who rely on large, empty buildings. Number 7. Cold makes everything take longer. Cold changes how time works in survival situations. Not the clock itself, but how long tasks take and how quickly energy is drained. Cold slows muscle movement, reduces coordination, and weakens reaction speed. Nerve signals travel more slowly. Thinking becomes less clear. This is not panic or fear. It is biology responding to physics. Chemical reactions in the body slow down as temperature drops. The colder you get, the less efficient you become. In practical terms, everything takes longer. Walking takes more effort. Carrying supplies feels heavier. Simple tasks like opening containers, cutting material, setting up shelter, or cooking food require more time and concentration. Mistakes happen more often, which adds even more delay. People consistently underestimate this effect. They believe they have enough time to finish one more task, travel a little farther, or gather a bit more fuel. In cold conditions, this mindset kills people. Cold also compresses margins. Darkness arrives quickly in winter. Temperatures often drop sharply after sunset. What feels manageable during the day can become deadly within an hour. Exhaustion sets in faster because the body burns more energy just to stay warm. Recovery takes longer. Resting without adequate insulation allows heat loss to continue, even while sleeping. In a collapse, there is no emergency backup, no heated vehicle, no rescue team, no warm building to retreat to. Once fatigue and cold combine, decision-making collapses. People push themselves when they should stop. They delay shelter setup. They misjudge distance and time. Cold punishes optimism more harshly than hunger or thirst. Experienced cold survivors follow strict time discipline. They start tasks early. They stop before exhaustion sets in. They prioritize shelter and heat before comfort or progress. They assume everything will take longer than planned and build buffer time into every decision. This is not caution. It is realism. Cold removes safety margins silently. Once those margins are gone, even small delays can turn fatal. Understanding how cold stretches time is critical for prepping. Survival is not about doing more. It is about doing the right things early enough. Cold rewards conservative planning and punishes last-minute thinking. In collapse conditions, bad timing is often the final mistake people make.